Composer, arranger, producer, conductor. After 200 songs now translated into a dozen languages. Scores for feature films such as Billy Graham's Mr. Texas and hit TV shows like I Love Lucy. After several Christian musicals and a hymn book used in over 1,000 churches in America, this extraordinary musician is still dedicated to delivering the gospel message through music. To this Gospel Music Association Hall of Fame member, 40 years after his first television Emmy, we proudly present this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Carmichael. You young folks should be forever indebted and grateful to this man who blazed the way for contemporary music. God bless you, Ralph. It's a well-deserved award.
The 1991 Reader's Choice Lifetime Achievement Award. Just one of many honors recognizing the pioneer, the father, the dean of contemporary Christian music. Let's listen to the heartbeat of Ralph Carmichael.
As a teenager, I seriously committed my life to Christ, for whatever good or bad, you know, and the only thing I could really do then was study for the ministry, even though my life was music, and eventually, even in college, music took the upper hand, and I was always the one that was doing the music. But early on, I made a pact with God, and I felt he made one with me, and he said, if you'll give me everything you are and got, I'll let you have anything that you want to do. And I wanted to do music, and I wanted to be involved, and so we started our adventure. My love affair with arranging started when I was a teenager, actually. I began to get interested. I was playing in some local orchestras, the Civic Symphony. My father took me there, and as a teenager, and then when I was in high school, I was invited to play in the college or symphony orchestra. And I'd see the instruments and hear the sounds of the instruments. Then that, along with listening to the radio, the bands of those days, and I wondered how those sounds were made. And I'd go home, check them on the piano, and I'd find something, whew, boy, and I'd, wow, I got to remember that. So it was early on, but when I actually started to put notes on the page, I probably was 17. When my father first became a Christian, he had a violin, and upon accepting Christ, the local church folks said he would have to put down the violin and not play it anymore. What my father went through, I had to experience later in the use of the brass instruments and saxophones. Oh, when I rented a baritone sax to use in the band at college, and we couldn't keep it on campus because it was a bad instrument. We looked for the best studios and would hire the best musicians. And that took us, for example, to Capitol. And we did some of the first recordings in the big Capitol, Studio A, the Capitol Towers. And what we were recording then in the field of gospel music was being listened to by the producers at Capitol. And then also, now, one of the first things I did was with Rosemary Clooney, and her music director was a guy by the name of Buddy Cole, who had been playing piano for me. And Buddy said, "Would you do an album for Rosie Clooney?" And I said, "Sure." So we did a hymn album. That was one of the first things I did. But then we had a big orchestra that we were recording with in Capitol A, and Nat Cole's producer got a hold of that. And the next thing you know, I was working with Nat Cole. And incidentally, Kelly Cole, Nat's son, called me the other day, and he's doing a book on Nat, so I'm going to spend some time with him. But I did about 7 albums with Nat, and then, of course, when I recorded with Nat, then that just opened everything up. That's when it all happened. It's really hard to isolate one feeling that I would have about music, because there are so many things that it satisfies for me. It has a boldness, it has a strength, it has an excitement, it has adventure. For me, music, it has adventure. But it's also a means of very delicate expression. I mean, the whispered sound of a violin, the sweeping sounds of a whole lot of violins, the celebration of a cracking brass section. I have a saying, it's a correction of direction, and that means that your motives, you can't just settle your motivations once upon a time and then have it go forever. Every day you have to check your motivations. And there's no doubt that when I was young and people would criticize what I would do, I would set my jaw and say, I'll show you. I mean, I don't want to pretend that I'm an angel, because I probably had some of that stubbornness, you know. On the other hand, as I matured and I began to test, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Hopefully my motivations got a little more pure as we went along, because I really did believe that these sounds could be used to communicate the gospel and to uplift people's hearts. And I would experiment and be misunderstood, and I wouldn't like it too much. I like today much better when I'm more accepted, you know. What would I really die for? And if it was something I really wouldn't die for, then I just set it aside, and it wasn't worth worrying about. But the things that I kept, those things that I felt were really important, I would have to die for those beliefs, you know. I thank God for the fight that we have fought to have the liberty to experiment and to be natural and without the terrible suspicion and criticism. People are naturally suspicious of change, just any change, but even more so in music. But I think that we're beginning to realize that things do change. Everything changes, excepting God's provision for us and our need for that provision. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But music changes, and all technology changes. And I'm just thrilled with when we were in the preparation room, we were saying that, you know, 25, 35, 40 years ago, you could be a Christian or you could be a musician, but you couldn't be both at the same time. One of the things that continues to be a great thrill is to see the things that you've written in obscurity be used over and over and over again by God to reach people and bless people's hearts. I'll never lose that thrill when I hear, and you know, some of the songs that continue on are songs that musically, they're nothing. They're just simple, but still they say something, and I think that's the greatest thrill. And of course, I have to tell you, to see the artists that have come through Light Records continue on, and to see them reproduce themselves and bless people, that's a wonderful reward. Like in all ministries, I think that in the ministry of music, we have been called to a new level of accountability. And I think that's healthy. And I'm very optimistic for the next decade. If the Lord gives us another 10 years, I think that we'll see some wonderful things. I could talk your ear off about the exciting opportunities that we've had all over the world, and I won't start, but It is a thrill to stand in front of a big orchestra and a big choir. I'm looking forward to continuing that in heaven.
Ralph Carmichael, successful Hollywood composer, arranger, orchestrator, producer. But his commitment to the praise of God through his music crowded out his ambitions in the secular field, as he became the pioneer of new forms of Christian music, the youth musical, or folk musical as it was first called. Tell it like it is, Natural High. Musical scores for Christian films, Mr. Texas, The Restless Ones, The Cross and the Switchblade. Christian television musicals with groups like the World Action Singers. The story of Ralph Carmichael is the story of contemporary Christian music and the musical styles that dominate the worship of today's evangelical churches. His legacy can be traced through the works of those who follow, those who seek the resistance of the blandness of the status quo, those who pursue excellence. MUSICalifornia is honored to present the first Ray DeVries Music Ministry Award to Ralph Carmichael.